Is it time for you to give up your business and get a real job? Let's talk about it up next on The Brandpreneur. Hey, this is Nick F. Nelson and you're watching Brandpreneur, where we help you build your brand and run it like a business. This week we talk about when is enough when it comes to running your own business. It's interesting, I come up with topics for Brandpreneur based off of not only your input, but conversations that I have throughout the course of a week. This week I had two conversations that were asking my advice around the same topic. Is enough enough? Now, what do I mean is enough enough? Both of these individuals have businesses. They are owners of a business. And they've just had challenges over the course of these past couple of years, whether it be financial challenges, challenges in terms of keeping and maintaining customers, challenges in terms of getting the appropriate amount of funding necessary to grow the business. One of these individuals even came to me from a spiritual perspective and asked, how can I tell if it's my will or if it's God's will? I don't want to feel like I'm forcing something and God does not have this in the cards for me. These are very real questions that anybody who's had a business asks themselves. This is because owning a business is like a weird roller coaster ride. It's filled with incredibly high heights and low lows. There's a tremendous amount of anticipation to get on the roller coaster, and you even have fun for a while after you're riding it. But for some, after a while, it's like, get me off of this thing. I'm getting sick. I'm getting nauseous. What many entrepreneurs fail to realize, especially as they're going through it, is that there aren't many entrepreneurs who have not failed. If you look at some of the most renowned entrepreneurs in American history, whether it be Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Arianna Huffington, Sean Diddy Combs, the one thing that they all have in common is failure. Failure is actually par for the course when it comes to being an entrepreneur. But failure isn't necessarily a bad thing. A lot comes from failure. You understand what you like, what you don't like, what you're good at, what you're not good at, relationships you need to be engaged in, relationships that you do not need to be engaged in. I love talking to my young people coming straight out of college because many of them start off with an entrepreneurial mindset because they have a desire to be their own boss. It's that desire to control your life, to be your own boss, that drives people to even want to be entrepreneurs. It's freedom. It's the freedom to make your own decisions and also the freedom to fail. Now, to the question at hand, Nick, how do you know when it's time to hang it up? Or when to say when? You might not like my answer, but the reality is it all depends. You have to ask yourself, is there the slightest chance that this business can work? In business, there are a lot of variables you need to take into consideration. It's timing, timing of the market, timing within your personal life, and definitely the finances. So back to the question at hand. Should you give up your business? Well, before giving up your business, I want to give you 5 things to think about based off of the lessons learned from some of our greatest entrepreneurs. Number 1, are you being persistent? Persistence is one of those traits that's absolutely necessary if you are to be an entrepreneur. No matter what you do in life, there will always be those times when things just don't turn out as planned. It's during those times that you have to have persistence to push your way through. You have to be your own cheerleader. The easy thing to do during these times is to quit what you're doing, move on and do something different. However, that's the reason why a good majority of businesses and entrepreneurs fail. They don't push through. They don't push through the difficult times. One of the greatest examples of persistence comes from Elon Musk, founder of Tesla and also SpaceX. Before Elon became one of the most wealthy and prominent entrepreneurs ever, he was a complete failure. Starting with Netscape, the leading internet company in the 90s, because he was too shy. Next, he and his brother founded a company by the name of Zip2, but he was even ousted out of Zip2 because the board felt that he didn't have enough experience. Not letting that stop him, he went on to start X.com, or which is known today as PayPal. However, after having a disagreement with the chief technology officer over which platform to leverage, he was ousted out of that company as well. Between his own personal near-death experience and the sudden loss of his son, somehow Elon found the persistence to keep pushing towards his entrepreneurial quest. In 2002, Musk founded SpaceX with the objective of lowering space transportation costs. The first 3 launches of the company failed miserably. Literally, SpaceX was on the verge of bankruptcy and could only afford to do one last launch. The 4th launch was a success. As a consequence, SpaceX received a contract from NASA for $1.6 billion. What's the moral here? Persistence. The next is, how are you managing your time? As an entrepreneur, time is your most valuable asset. Now, I know that's kind of a cliche, but it's absolutely true. One of the things that I want to encourage you as an entrepreneur is not to focus on the easy. Staples has a commercial in which it talks about hitting the easy button. However, if you continue to focus on the easy things throughout the course of a day, you'll never get to those hard things, those time-consuming things. In many instances, it's those time-consuming things that provide you the best value and get you closer to your end game. Next, I want you to ask yourself, what are you selling? One of my good friends and colleagues, Munson Steed of Rolling Out Magazine, gave me a valuable piece of information one time. He said, Nick, always have something to sell. And that's true. Sales are the lifeline of business. You'd be surprised by the number of entrepreneurs that I speak to on a daily basis that say, Nick, I'm just too busy doing the work. I don't have time to sell. My answer to them is, then you don't have time to be in business. What I've learned is that if you don't keep your eye on your sales pipeline, before you know it, your pipeline will dry up. And then you get into panic mode. You make decisions that are based off of immediate need as opposed to being more strategic. I've also even had entrepreneurs come to me and say, well, Nick, I don't know how to sell. My answer is, quite frankly, you need to figure it out. You have to get out of your comfort zone. Now, when it comes to selling, there is no better example that I have than Sean Diddy Combs, hip-hop's first billionaire. Sean Combs started out in music. However, he didn't just stop there. He went on to pursue fashion with his Sean John line, cologne, water, and what ultimately put him over the top, his various spirits brands. Lastly, the most important thing that he's learned to sell is himself. He does that through inspiring others, through his over-the-top personality, and keeping up and engaging with culture. Next, before you give up your business, ask yourself, do I need to pivot? Business is always evolving, and if you don't evolve with it, you can find yourself left behind. Some of the indicators that show that you might be falling behind include, you always feel like you're playing catch up. You do an environmental scan and you determine that people that offer some of the same services that you do are either dying, not around, or just plain out doing it differently. If your business is plateauing, you're looking at your sales and they're not moving above and beyond a certain point. It just might require a pivot. You see, it's these pivots that could have a drastic change in your business. Whether it be an additional service offering, removing some service offerings, or just thinking about things differently. Now, partnership done effectively is the equivalent of driving down the fast pass lane on a freeway. In Atlanta, there's a freeway called 85 that I drive down each morning. One lane is for those individuals that are driving by themselves, and then there is another fast pass, or what we call HOV lane, that is reserved for those people that are driving together. Typically each morning I choose to drive by myself. However, if I did have somebody in the car with me, the likelihood of me getting to my end destination increases. The same in business. There is the potential that you can go further faster. Is it time for you to give up your business and get a real job? Quite honestly, it really all depends. However, I encourage you to ask yourself, am I being persistent? Am I managing my time? Do I know what I'm selling? Do I need to pivot? And could I potentially partner with somebody? Owning your own business can be a liberating experience. Ask yourself these things, because I would honestly hate for you to be inches away from achieving your goal and have quit. Well, that's our show for today. My name is Nick F. Nelson. You can reach me at nick@nickfnelson.com. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel and provide me feedback. I always want to hear feedback, and I want to obtain your questions. These questions will be leveraged for future episodes of Brandpreneur. Once again, as I say at the conclusion of all of my episodes, never be afraid to promote yourself or your business, and do it shamelessly. You take care.